Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call to order this March 24th, 2025 meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors. Our first item is to go into closed meeting. Be it resolved, the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby enters into closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Section 2.2-3711. 1. Discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. 1. Adjustment and Appeals Board. 2. Alcohol Safety Action Program. 3. Economic Development Authority. 4. Parks and Rec Commission. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
We are in closed session. Okay, is there a motion to come out of closed meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, and our next step is to certify the closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item on our agenda is a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, and that is led by our County Administrator, Angie Hill. Angie?
Please rise as you're able for a moment of silence and then join me in the pledge. Let us pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing, and this is a public hearing for a fiscal year 24-25 budget amendment. This is a proposed resolution amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget by more than 1% of the total expenditures shown in the currently adopted budget, not to exceed $10 million by appropriating funds to the New River Valley Emergency Communications Regional Authority for the Radio Infrastructure Project. And Angie, I know you've got a few things to say about this.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Jason Milburn, the Executive Director of the 911 Authority, came and spoke with us several months ago about this project. This is a project for radio infrastructure throughout the county, and it will benefit all the public safety agencies throughout the county, as well as provide opportunities in the future for other partners who might want to use some of that infrastructure. And as he shared with you before, it's an important project. There are some areas of the county that do not have radio service at this time. A portion of this project will be funded with debt that the authority will issue, and we are a member of the authority. Some of the members of the authority, which include the county, Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and Virginia Tech, have chosen to cash fund their portion to save the interest cost and other things. And we've spoken with the board before about the desire for the county to save money by cash funding our portion of that. The project is moving along. The award for the contract has not completely been finalized, but should be in the next few weeks. So we're proposing later in the meeting an appropriation of funding of $10 million so that the project can get underway. And if our portion is less than $10 million, we just won't provide that. It will roll back to the general fund. The project is expected to be completed in October of 2027. We had some questions that came forward about future costs that might be associated with the system. And the radio infrastructure, it will provide the infrastructure. It will also provide some actual radios, and so that process will be moved along as well. But as far as the ongoing maintenance cost, there is a maintenance cost after the first year that it's in service, and that's currently estimated for Montgomery County of about $250,000. because we do have some time out into the future to plan for that, we can gradually increase the amount we're setting aside for that as well. So this public hearing is just about that $10 million revision to the current year budget that we're in. I know that there's some people here to speak about the proposed FY26 budget as well.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions before we open the public hearing? Supervisor King?
I asked this before, and once we move forward with this project, they won't come back and say, now we got to do something different.
As far as
Or
radios
as the system itself. I know that you upgrade some, but as I stated before, last time we bought pagers and radios, then we spent that money, and then they come back and said, well, we'd do better with these.
Right. I've asked that question several times myself, and the radios that have recently been purchased are compatible with the system, completely compatible with the system. There are some agencies that have not recently purchased radios that will need new ones.
Right.
But the ones that have been recently purchased are compatible, and they're the same brand. They work with the system. So, yes,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Yes, Vice Chair Fidzikowski.
Yeah, I would just add, I think the biggest difference in this system is that it's digital.
Right.
So and in the digital world, technology seems to be going leaps and bounds, so I wouldn't hold my breath, but.
It's digital, and it also provides a few towers in sites where there are no towers existing. So there are a couple really huge benefits.
So along that line, with new towers, would there be potential for other organizations, like to expand cellular service, things like that, in the future if they wanted to do that? Like, are these those kind of towers?
They are those kind of towers. I know that they've talked about if the schools wanted to use the towers and some other groups like that. I don't know if they've discussed third parties like you're mentioning.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we open the public hearing? Okay. We did have a sign-up sheet in the lobby for this public hearing, and I think it might have been a little bit confused, so if anybody is here to speak specifically to this public hearing on the radio infrastructure project, please come forward at this time. You have 4 minutes. State your name, where you reside. I do not. Yes, sir.
Chris Waltz, 1370 Rigby Street. I saw the presentation on this at Christiansburg. They had a little work session and a presentation, and this is a total and complete waste of money. Half of the things that he talks about in there, like having one police officer hear the rescue on his channel when he's out in the field, these are all things that is maintenance. You're talking about $250,000 a year for maintenance. They're doing maintenance now. What makes you think they're going to do it then? I was an electronics technician in the Navy for 10 years. In communications, I used to work on these systems. And I asked about it. I said, so have you checked the radio? Did you see if maybe there was some frequency drift on that one radio that would cause two channels to bleed into one another because the frequencies are so close? Huh? What are you talking about? Do you do any preventive maintenance on the radios? Huh? No. Well, what do you do with a broke radio? Get a new one. I spent 10 years fixing these things. They aren't that hard. But you're going to put in a whole new system, and they're still going to break. And if you're not doing any preventive maintenance on them, they're still going to break. And then in 5 years, somebody's going to come back here and go, oh, we need to upgrade the newest and latest things. If you would have them actually do the work that they should be doing, preventive maintenance, you wouldn't have this. It's basically maintenance. There's nothing wrong with these radio systems. We used them for years in the military. We used them in foreign countries that had no infrastructure like this. We were still able to use them. So the problem isn't with the radios. The problem is that you all aren't doing what should be done maintenance-wise on the radios. And you're about to waste a whole lot of money instead of fixing the problems to just create more problems down the road. Because no matter what it is, if it's a piece of electronics and you don't do maintenance on it, it breaks. It gets old and it breaks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak specifically to the radio infrastructure project? Seeing nobody else come forward, we're going to close this public hearing and move to the next item on our agenda. That is public address. The guidelines for public address are on the screens around the room. And I'm going to call, we have a lot of people that have signed up to speak during public address. I'm going to call them in order of the sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and call out the first three names just so the next two on deck can be ready. We're going to start with Andy Morikawa. We're going to move to Derek Roundtree and then Glenn Chilcote. And welcome, sir.
Good evening, Chair DeMotz and Board of Supervisors members and County Administrator Hill. My name is Andy Morikawa, and I live with my wife at 1505 Westover Drive in Blacksburg. I'm here to say unequivocally and enthusiastically that I support the Montgomery County Public School budget to increase special education services to our students, supporting child nutrition in our schools, and compressing the salary scale to attract teachers to MCPS. The children who count on the nutritious meals they get at school, the children with special needs who flourish when they are well served by our schools, these are all our children, ours. Let's be fully the community that cares and cares for all our children. Thank you for your support of our vital public school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Derek Roundtree. Welcome.
Stephen Derek Roundtree, District E, 2737 Old Fort Road. Chairman DeMott, Administrator Hill, Supervisors. Thank you for the job you do overseeing and budgeting services in Montgomery County. I am here today as a resident of Montgomery County District E. As you work tonight to set an advertised tax rate for the county, I would like you to consider an increase to our current rate of 0.75%. Our county is growing, and with that growth comes additional community services. I commend you on the expansion of emergency services in eastern Montgomery County and planned expansions in western central Montgomery County. As the county expands services beyond organic growth, we as residents must expect our tax rates to go up, opposed to cutting the organic growth of other services. For reference, comparing our tax rate to similar municipalities with approximately 100,000 residents, Roanoke County comes in with a tax rate of 0.894%, and Roanoke City comes in at 1.056%. Now turning to MCPS school budget. In your current plans, you have a shortfall of MCPS requested budget of $2.9 million. If real estate taxes are the only way to cover this, it would require a tax increase from 0.75% to 0.775%, or $75 per year on a $300,000 property, which is $6.25 per month. This is the cost of funding MCPS's budget increase. What is the cost of not funding it? The school system would be required to cut items from their budget, the additions to which over the 2024-2025 school year would most likely be the target of these cuts are the administration of fine arts position, 10 special education teachers, 7.5 paraprofessionals, 1 gifted teacher, 3 English language learning teachers, 2 nurses, 2 504 coordinators, a custodian, or 4 custodians, a 3% increase in salary, 10 minimum wage increases to $16 per hour, adjustments of pay scales for teachers and staff to improve recruitment and retention, school security officers, the initiation of a dual language program at Prices Fork Elementary School, lunch and breakfast at no cost to all students. It is the school board's job to run the school system with the funds you provide, and they will. However, cutting any of these line items is not what's best for our students. In closing, I want to speak to the school lunch and breakfast program specifically. The purpose of this program is to improve the educational outcomes to all of our Montgomery County students. There's a plethora of benefits that will be seen from this program, from reduced stigma to increased math scores. Additionally, I would like to highlight District E's Prices Fork Elementary School and District C's Falling Branch Elementary School, both two elementary schools that receive this program. And as those students graduate to middle school, they lose these benefits, leaving students that are on the margin at risk of going without meals during the day. As always, I thank you all for y'all's work and your time. Good evening.
Thank you. Next, we have Glenn Chilcote. After that, we have, Beth Umberger and then Penny Franklin. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Chilcote, and I live at 1611 Bold Spring Circle in Blacksburg. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I usually, spend a few hours preparing my speech or, the things that I'm going to say, but I haven't done that tonight for two reasons. One, my ask is very simple. I would ask that you do whatever you can to help support the MCPS budget, which I support, and I know that you all do too, but I would like you to support it a little more. And definitely increasing the advertised tax rate. I don't think there's any harm in that, especially the advertised rate. You're not setting the rate yet. So that would be a really good start. The second reason that I would like to speak is to just offer some suggestions just about the process between both boards. I'm very involved in the MCPS school board process not as a participant in creating the budget, but as someone who's affected by the budget and as someone who attends all the meetings and watches and obviously cares because I'm a citizen of the county. I have a son who's in the school division, and both me and my wife are teachers in the school division. But first, the two suggestions that I have. The first one is that when presenting the information, I do think it's very important that we educate everyone a little bit more about the undesignated funds versus the designated funds. And I emailed you all about that specific slide on the presentation, which showed that it was basically a 50-50 split, but it really isn't, because designated funds come to you all with already earmarked. So if I'm understanding it correctly, and I may not be, but I believe I am, that those funds, even though they are new revenue and they need to be included in new revenue, you are not choosing to give those funds to MCPS. The funds that you choose are the undesignated funds. And if we look at that breakdown, that wasn't a 50-50. And that's fine if that's your prerogative, but I don't want people to think that you all are choosing to do 50% of the funds available to give to MCPS. It seemed more of like a 40-60. The second suggestion that I have, and obviously this is to the board, to direct administration, you can take it for what it's worth, but the process, both boards, is a really good process. There's a lot of work put behind it. I think all of the administrations, both the county and the school board, work countless hours giving both boards a lot of information and do a really good job. So I'd like to commend the county's administration and the school board's administration. However, I think that since Dr. Bregan comes to you all and presents, I think it would also be very helpful if Ms. Hill came to the school board and presented the county's budget. And I think that would be more beneficial than the joint meeting. Because by the time we get to the joint meetings, both boards are kind of, the MCPS budget, they're fighting for that. You guys have kind of made up your mind. Unless those meetings happen much earlier in the process, where both groups can learn about their shared values and the shared items of interest and really build budgets together, I think that would be helpful. But if Ms. Hill came to school board meetings, I think she'd be able to talk to specific county initiatives, and that would give our school board sometimes more information in making decisions, and that would be a really good way to show, working, not necessarily across the aisle, but across both boards. And I think that would be a really good suggestion to maybe that you all could consider. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Beth Umberger. Welcome.
I will not be having facts. I'm a product of the Montgomery County school system. I had Margaret Beeks for a teacher.
Ms. Umberger, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you please state your name and where you reside?
I forgot, sorry. My name is Beth Umberger, and I live at 915 College Street in Christiansburg.
Thank you.
I had Margaret Beeks for a teacher, and I had May and Florence Kipps for a teacher. My education is still deep in my heart. I have things that I remember from that education. And I'm very concerned that we keep funding the schools as best as we can. That children be fed. I remember seeing hungry children when I was a child, and it bothered me. And as a foster parent and as a person who's been interacting with some homeless people, I understand that the depth of any poverty that we have around here. And for those people who I consider paying taxes as part of my patriotic duty. And I don't have any children in the school system now or grandchildren. And my concern is that there are people who are concerned about paying more taxes. We benefit from it in the front end. As a foster parent to at-risk kids, some of them end up in jail, and they're back and forth with their education. It's not consistent. And so what happens is if we put money in the front end, we feed kids, we educate them, and we go where they are. If they have to learn a language, we go where they are. My daughter came from Korea, and she had to learn a language when she was in school. They had stopped ESL. I happened to know it, so I worked with her myself. So these programs are an investment. They're an investment in our society, and I'm willing to do that. And there are people that it's hard to pay some of these taxes, but we have ways, I think they still exist, that people can pay their taxes and get if they're on low income, that they get breaks. So we're being a fair community, and I really do support education and the efforts that all the people that in the school system. So thank you, and I know you have to make hard decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Penny Franklin. After Penny is Chris Thomas, and then Patricia Kolatorsti. And I know I messed that up, so I'm sorry in advance. Welcome.
Good evening. Penny Franklin, Christiansburg. So I'm coming as a board member, but I'm also coming as a citizen of Montgomery County. So I appreciate your efforts and how throughout the years the county has stepped up to try to fill the gaps when the state and the federal governments do not support the way they should. That has not always been the case, and a couple of years ago that was not. So we are still in a recovery mode from when we weren't funded at a level that we should have been funded at. When we had our joint meeting and we talked about safety and how that's needed in the county, our schools are needed also. When folks look at Montgomery County, they look at the schools. And if our schools are not going to provide what their children need, or if they don't have children, what they feel the school system should be doing to help produce good citizens and make us a better community, they're going to go someplace else. And I know that's not what you want. We have to feed our students. We have to make sure their needs are met. When I hear, well, wait till next year, we have our students 13, maybe 14 years, and that goes really, really fast. And if we're not giving them what they need, even in 1 or 2 of those years, it can put them behind for the rest of their life. Now, I'm wearing my A's t-shirt tonight because I'm so grateful for the opportunities that that program is giving students in Montgomery County so that kids who never thought that they would ever be able to get higher education are able to do that. But we've got to prepare them for that, which means they need to come to school. They need to feel like they are getting what they need. And folks, a big part of that is food. It really is. And for some reason in this country, we don't think we need to pay attention to feeding our students. We don't think we need to pay attention to students who have not mastered the English language just because some people think they shouldn't even be here. Well, guess what? This country was built on immigrants, and that's how we got to where we were. Some of it was on the back of some others, but that's how we got to where we were, where we are. And if we stop supporting public education, we're going to be in serious trouble. We will have folks who are not educated enough for you to bring in good jobs, because folks won't think we have the workforce to be able to support it. Therefore, they're going to be working and trying to survive. We have given them an outlet to help them with that. We got to continue to do that. So please consider funding this budget. I'm one who says we need to ask for everything we need, but I also know we're going to get what you can do, and I think you can do better, because we've got to do better for our students. They are our future, not just of this county, not this state, this country, but of this world. And we need everybody we can to be the best they can be to make sure we survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chris Thomas, and then after Chris, we have Patricia, and I'm not going to do that to your last name again. And then after Patricia, we have Estelle Putney. Welcome.
Chris Thomas, Christiansburg. Members of the board, the agenda for this evening's meeting includes a lot of discussion of budgets, taxes, and tax rates. I'm afraid the unenviable job of local government
Can you lift the mic just a little bit?
Sorry.
Thank
I'm
you.
afraid the unenviable job of local government is that you get to deal with topics that are somehow at the same time extraordinarily dull and profoundly divisive. Nevertheless, I shall attempt to be at least a little entertaining. We have in this county, and heck, this country, a political divide. On one side are liberals who seem to believe that government can do real good in the world, that we can fund that government through responsible and reasonable taxation, and that education is both the cornerstone and responsibility of good government. And on the other side, we have conservatives who pretty much disagree on all counts. I'm not going to be able to bridge that partisan divide for you here tonight. That's hard work is for you to do for yourselves. But what I can do is offer you some facts and figures around which to ground your discussion. First of those is $3 million. That's the difference between what our school system requested in the funding from the county and what you presently plan to award it. $3 million means slashing nearly every single expansion of services the school system plans and reducing teacher headcount by 4. Those cuts are going to have a real and measurable effect on the quality of education we can provide to our students. Looking over the school board's list, I see that the vast, vast majority of that spending benefits kids who struggle in school and kids who don't get enough to eat. That means those dollars aren't pouring out of Shawsville and Reiner into Blacksburg's coffers. They're flowing in the opposite direction. Here's another number, $1.2 million. That's the amount of money a 0.01% increase in the property tax would raise in 1 year. That's a penny for every $100 in property value. 3 pennies closes the gap between what the schools need and what you're offering them. But it's not that simple. Helping struggling kids and feeding hungry kids improves the performance of the school system. There's more to education than testing, but indulge me for just a minute on that testing. A study in the Quarterly Journal of Economics found that for every 5% increase in standardized test scores, suburban neighborhoods see a 2.5% increase in their home values. The National Bureau of Economic Research found that every dollar in per pupil spending in education raises average home prices by $20. There's a positive feedback loop here. Spend more on our schools and you get more in tax revenue. The reason for this is simple. People are prepared to uproot their entire lives and pay a premium for housing to make sure their kids get a good education. And that brings me to another figure, $16.8 million. That's the cost to the county just this year of the continued effects of the 2023 reduction in property taxes this board forced through on a party line vote. That vote very likely cost Republicans the majority on this board. It certainly mobilized a lot of voters to turn out in the 2023 election to fund our schools. I knocked a lot of doors myself in that race and talked to a lot of dissatisfied people. I can say with some certainty that several of my friends on the left here owe their seats to the backlash against that cut. And that's why I'm surprised to see that this board has been so timid about undoing what was clearly a very unpopular decision. Of the 16 cents cut in 2023, this board has walked back only 2. And I'm not suggesting we need to return to the 2023 tax rates, but the idea that a 3-cent tax hike is politically radioactive is nonsense. And I'll tell you why with one last number. $337,300. That's the average sale price of a home at Montgomery County according to Realtor.com. A 3-cent tax increase on that home works out to $101.19 a year, about a quarter per day. This is what we're all wringing our hands about. This is the difference between fully funding our schools and not. Our county has been recognized at the state and national level as one of the best places to live, work, and raise a family. That performance in our school system is relative to our cost of living, and that's why people show up. It's the single biggest contributor to those ratings. You are starving the goose that lays your golden eggs. Over what? A quarter. Keep it. You need it more than I do.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Patricia, then Estelle Putney, and then Laura Purcell. And I apologize for what I did to your last name. Please state your name and where you reside.
My name is Patricia Colatasti. I live at 1580 Taylor Hollow Road, and I'm going to try to put 2 things into my 4 minutes. The first one is a really, really big thank you to you all for shifting money from the 6-year road list to fix the low water crossing in Taylor Hollow Road. It went under 3 feet of water this past flooding event in February, and it came out unscathed. Our previous crossing would have been gone, just completely gone. We now have a guardrail. No one's going to fall, drive a car into North Fork of the Roanoke River anymore. You have made an incredible, positive, lasting impact on everyone who lives and works in Taylor Hollow, and I heartfelt thank you. It's really changed my life. The second one is to speak to the advertised tax rate. I would implore you to advertise the tax rate at what fully funds both the county and the school requests. And the reason for that is to give people enough time to actually take a chance to look at these budgets. And if we have the flexibility to look at the budget and look at it from the idea of what is important to our community to fund, what in here really speaks to people in different portions of our community. And then we can have that open, transparent, civil discourse that I have come to know in Montgomery County for the past 25 years, and really speak about it. If you set the advertised tax rate very low, the conversation goes to, well, what do we have to cut? That's divisive. If you set it at something that fully funds it, we can have the discussion of, what do we really need to fund? I don't have the information right now as to what I think it should be, but setting it at that higher rate, advertising at that higher rate, gives us the possibility to look at different possibilities within that rate. And the other part about that worries me a lot is, given the current turmoil in the federal government and the amount of the county school's budget that is Title I funds through the Department of Education and the nutrition assistance to feed the children in our schools, I don't have a lot of confidence that money's going to be there in the fall. And then what do we do? What do we do if that money doesn't show up that is in the budget? And we've set this rate so low that we can't even discuss fully funding it. I taught in Montgomery County's public schools for 15 years. I taught at the high school. I took money out of my own pocket to give to teenagers who forgot to bring food, forgot to bring money or food with them, because they need to eat. I've seen some of the benefits of having every child be able to eat without any stigma attached to it. I saw the stigma. I saw that firsthand. I saw kids who didn't eat because they didn't want to not have to pay when they got to where they checked out. That's important. So yes, please set the advertised tax rate at what fully funds it, and then we can have that discussion about what we as a community find most important. Thank you.
Thank you. Estelle Putney. Welcome.
Thank you. This is the first time I've ever, Estelle Putney, 945 Canyon Ridge Road, apartment 101, first floor, no stairs. I came here to find out how our schools were faring. I have been inspired by one of our local leaders that there are important issues here. I am horrified at the idea that kids won't get the food they need. I've been supporting a school in Africa for, 14 years, and They're fed a very simple breakfast and a very simple lunch. We know they can't learn when they're hungry, and I buy the food for this school. I hope my county will buy food for our children. I can't imagine being a special needs kid and having the help I needed being taken away from me. I'm asking you, you know what the school is asking. I haven't heard that there's anything silly or extraneous about it. If it's at all possible, please help these kids get the resources they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Laura Purcell, followed by Bob Beard and Leah Boblet. Welcome.
My name is Laura Purcell, and I live at 826 Toms Creek Road. I've been a resident and homeowner in Blacksburg for 17 years. I'm also a member of the school board, but I want to make it clear that my statements tonight reflect only my perspective and experience. I am not speaking for the board. First, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for considering adopting an ordinance in alignment with Virginia Code 15.2-912.4, which would restrict tobacco, hemp, and nicotine sales within 1,000 feet of schools. I hope that you'll consider using the full scope of that legislation and include private schools and daycares in any ordinance you might put forward. I fully understand that someone who wants these products can get them, but a few barriers in place to make it harder for underage people can't hurt. But I'm also here to speak to the MCPS budget for 2025-2026. In short, the budget attempts to address systemic problems, it innovates, and it has student needs at heart. Public education is an investment. Typically, for every $1 invested in publication, it gives $3 back to the community. When a community is better educated, in general, people are healthier, they stay out of trouble, they are better able to find adequate and stable employment, and they build instead of drain the economy. But there's one particular component of the budget and some information expressed at the joint school board and supervisors meeting last Monday that I'd like to highlight and hopefully get some clarity from you all. You said at your joint meeting that you're prioritizing public safety with your current budget choices, and my concerns also relate to safety. One line item in the public school budget is funding for a school safety officer program. This program would provide dedicated safety officers for each elementary school in Blacksburg. Right now, the 4 elementary schools in Blacksburg share one school resource officer, one member of the Blacksburg Police Department dedicated to 4 elementary schools. The school safety officer positions address this gap. Because the first estimates from the county do not fund the full budget request from MCPS, that means to provide safety officers, the school board needs to exclude something else. It also means that safety provisions for elementary schoolers in Blacksburg would be different than for every other school in the county. The county funds 3 sheriff's officers to act as school resource officers in Christiansburg. The town of Christiansburg Police Department only provides 3 school resource officers for their town. The county also provides school resource officers for all of the schools located in the county in the Auburn Strand, Eastmont, and at Bellevue Elementary. The county provides no additional SROs for Blacksburg, and the town of Blacksburg only provides 3 school resource officer positions. The town of Blacksburg has said this is due to staffing issues. As a resident of Montgomery County, an MCPS parent, and a school board member, I hope that you'll work with the town the same way that you did in 2023 with Christiansburg to ensure that Blacksburg's elementary school students are safe without compromising educational needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Bob Beard, followed by Leah Boblet, and then Chris Gaines.
Good evening, Bob Beard. I live here in Christiansburg. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. It's about taxes. So, in my opinion, taxes need to be lowered and not raised. The question is MC Board of Supervisors doing a good job for the citizens of this county? Let's take a gander. Last year, you guys raised our taxes 7%. Okay, so that increased your tax revenues by $18 million. Okay, so now the question is, of those 18 million, how much money is left over that's not being accounted for in the budget? Okay, when we look at past budgets and past spending, my estimate is you guys have $4 million of undesignated or undocumented money sitting in your coffers. Okay. I even called Mark today, but I didn't hear back from him, so I'm trying to get the exact number. But again, you guys raised our taxes 7% last year, so there's all this talk about raising taxes again, again and again. When is enough enough? And you always talk about business growth. I'd like to know how is business growth measured? Is government expansion included in the business government growth? What is the what is government expansion? How does that affect the GDP for this county? Recently, the Board of Supervisors bought a building on Roanoke Street for $950,000. Last year, the tax assessment was around $350,000. The appraised value was not released to the general public. Other than the Board of Supervisors did not would not bring that value up and would not share that with everybody. I wasn't sure why she's hiding this number. A part of the reason may be due to the fact of lost tax revenue. The building assessment was around $350K. My guess is the property appraised for around $1.1 to $1.2 million. So the tax value, the appraised value is 4 times higher than the tax assessment. So the question being is, what happened to that tax revenue? You guys had a building that was worth, according to you guys, $1.2 million, but you're only charging $400,000 in assessed tax value. Look at all the money you guys lost and left because you had to expand government to get a new building. Okay, was there not any other buildings that we could have bought or used to accomplish that goal? And that's just one example that just doesn't match up. Board of Supervisors has some explaining to do. Is this a good practice for the citizens of Montgomery County for a government to keep buying buildings that it doesn't need or it can't find another way to accomplish? You had 6 people who already have an office space in the government center. Is beds or training facility required? If you don't need training facilities at other fire stations, do you? There's other training facilities at Merrimack and some other fire stations. So training facility wasn't the issue. Why you had to buy that particular building? Beds, in the name of efficiency, couldn't you consider the new sheriff's department facility downtown? What's going to be the cost to renovate that building you guys just bought? It's going to be over $2 million. So you just lost all that money right there. So let's get back. Let's talk about schools for a second, okay? The schools say they want more money and we're not matching up with them, okay? We hear that we need to raise taxes for kids. 89% of the MCPS budget is payroll. MCPS has declining enrollment. The tax cost per child is, MCPS is $17.5 and continues to climb. The first act that this Board of Supervisors did when they got elected last year was got rid of the vouchers. You guys don't, MCPS and you guys do not want competition for the school system because we know more and more kids will leave and you need all better alternatives. Competition drives innovation. And we need vouchers and we need to break up the school system up so we have better results. MCPS is below the state average in academics. According to the Virginia Department of Education, 43% of MCPS students are not proficient in math and 30% are not proficient in reading. I don't believe this happened under Superintendent Dr. Meyer. Federal funding is going away for DEI, and yet MCPS...
Thank you, Mr. Beard. Your time is up. Next up, we have Leah Boblet, and then followed by Chris Gaines, and I'm sorry, Jesse Janowiak. I'm very sorry for that. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon to the Board of Supervisors. My name is Leah Boblet, and I live at 3391 Mount Tabor Road. I just wanted to come and say I appreciate all the services Montgomery County has to offer. Me and my family use them weekly, the library, the rec centers, the public schools, playgrounds, trails, parks, and of course, services like police and EMS that we don't really even see working in the background. I know it's a tough choice for y'all to decide what to fund and how to set the tax rate. I just wanted to say that I could never buy all these services alone if I had to do it myself, if I had to send my kids to private school. So I really appreciate the public schools here. I would happily pay a marginal property tax increase to fund all of our services fully. More staff and program funding in our public schools could give teachers some breathing room and reduce burnout. Harding Elementary is where my oldest daughter goes, and I'm always moved by how much care the teachers show when we go to after-school events, and they really go the extra mile. I've also spent time living in and tutoring kids in one of the local trailer parks. And it's amazing what teachers and schools do for those families. The schools are really a lifeline. So yeah, that's really all I had to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name is Chris Gaines, and I live on 4950 Long Shop Road in District E with my wife and 4 children, 3 of whom attend 3 separate schools here in Montgomery County: Price's Fort, Blacksburg Middle, and Blacksburg High. I'm also a parent of a student in the 504 and in the Gifted program. First, I want to say thank you for the infrastructure work that you're doing in our area of the county. It's definitely been seen, and we appreciate it. But I'm also here to ask you to trust in and fund that proposed MCPS budget. My family and I had the opportunity to work remotely, and so we could pick anywhere on the map to come, and we picked here, primarily because of the school district. We believe that this school district should be strengthened and not underfunded. And I know I'm not the only parent who's picked Blacksburg to come or Montgomery County to come and live, who has the opportunity to work remotely. I'm also a former principal and a special education teacher, and I've had the privilege of supporting students along with my colleagues and educators who have a variety of physical, mental, and emotional needs. I've changed diapers, I've cleaned adult students, I've assisted with tubed feedings, I've put my own safety, my team's safety on the line to make sure that children aren't harming themselves or harming others. I've been kicked, hit, cut, seen my coworkers experience the same. My family's been threatened by those students who we are continuing to support, who are learning to live with various disabilities. Alongside this school team, we've kept students safe through it all. We've guided and we were moved by these students who, overcoming great obstacles, learned to believe in their own abilities. They passed state exams, they achieved goals they set for themselves, and I know that my story is not unique. This is happening in Montgomery County Public Schools, in this district, across the state, and across the country. Special education teachers, paraprofessionals, nurses, and special program staff are some of the most resilient, patient, and heroic individuals serving across this district. These folks show up day in and day out to ensure that children are safe, cared for, and provided with the support they need to be equipped for the future. The Board of Supervisors is supporting public safety through the recent increases in non-designated funds, and I appreciate it. Thank you. But I'm also asking you to support the safety of all MCPS children and staff by funding these crucial positions that the district has put before you. Fully fund the MCPS budget. Ensure that every child in MCPS has access to free breakfast and lunch, stigma-free, that all children receiving special education services, 504 language services, have the teachers, paraprofessionals, nurses, SSOs, and staff they need to be safe, educated, and equipped for their future. Help make MCPS the place to work by giving our teachers and staff the raises they deserve and the salary structure needed to attract the best and most talented across this county and this state. Before approving raises, before distributing funds to other locations, consider those frontline workers who are not earning a livable wage in their service to the students of this county. If you won't restructure the current budget, my family is ready and eager to pay a 3-cent per $100 increase on property taxes to fully fund MCPS's proposed budget. We believe the safety and the well-being of children and all staff in Montgomery County are worth it.
Thank you. And then the final person that I have signed up, welcome. I'll let you say your name.
Hello, my name is Jesse Janowak, 1407 Gladewood Drive in Blacksburg. I am mainly here as a father of a child in Blacksburg schools and as a homeowner to add my voice to the people who have said that they're willing to pay more taxes in order to have better resources for our school, more resources for our schools. That as somebody mentioned before, there's nothing silly or extraneous in the requests they're making. But I've looked at the numbers, other people have presented the numbers of what it would actually cost somebody like me, a homeowner like me, and it's completely reasonable. And so even if you find that you can't make it work to raise the taxes enough to fund this entirely, I would ask that you not start with the assumption that you can't raise them at all to even fund it a little bit more than in the current proposal. There are a lot of things in there. Maybe you could add a couple more instead of just the one, which of course the teacher pay raises is much appreciated. And I was glad to see that is intended to be covered. I don't have a lot more to say than that, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you. We have reached the end of the list of people that signed up, but we certainly still have plenty of time to hear public comments. Just remember to come forward, state your name, where you reside, and you have 4 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Anna Vijayan, and I live in District A. I urge you to advertise a tax rate increase of 3 cents per $100 assessed value. I'd like to quickly note that the Montgomery County taxes are not already high compared to the rest of Virginia. Last year, our tax rate was 75 cents per $100, while the Virginia average was higher at 76.3 cents per $100. Roanoke County taxes are a whopping $1.04 per $100, much, much higher than the amount we're asking you to advertise today. I understand that there are needs in the area of public safety. There are also needs in the public schools. Our schools have been underfunded for years. If public safety needs more money, then you need to raise more money. Do not rob the schools to pay for it. This is not just about free lunches for students, although that's a part of it. This is also about much needed raises and adjustments to salary scales, steps the schools need to take to attract and retain both good teachers and good support staff. This is about increasing the number of special education teachers and paraprofessionals to improve outcomes for our students who need extra help. I'm not sure if you're aware, but students with disabilities at MCPS perform much worse on standardized tests than students with disabilities statewide. This is also about a few extra small improvements that don't cost relatively very much. For example, a pilot dual language immersion program. Are you willing to let other districts snap up the best teachers and support staff because we fail to compensate them fairly? Are you willing to let our students with disabilities continue to fall behind? Are you willing to forego a dual language program that would make our school system stand out just to save taxpayers a few dollars a year? I've been hearing rumors that some of you made promises not to raise taxes this year. If this is true, then I'd like to know, to whom did you make these promises? Because that's not what you told your constituents when you were asking for their vote. In fact, most of you have been telling your constituents for years that you support funding our schools. Are you willing to break those promises? I get that it's hard to tell people that you need to raise taxes, but most of you were voted in as candidates who specifically stated that you would raise taxes if needed to adequately fund our schools. Most of your constituents want you to raise taxes, if that's what it takes to do right by our schools. This isn't hard. Advertise a 3-cent tax increase. It's both the right thing and what your constituents actually want you to do. I understand that many people in this country are struggling. That's why I suggest expanding tax relief for households for which a property tax increase would be a hardship. You could institute a progressive tax system, one where those who can easily afford a tax increase pay the highest rate. In short, raise the taxes on those who can afford it and leave them the same for everyone else. Think outside the box. Just make sure you fund our schools. Adequately funding our public schools is one of your most vital functions, and it's what your constituents want you to do. Please do not let us down.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Carola Haas. I live in Reiner. As a taxpayer, I am asking you to increase revenue streams this year to pay for the important needs for fire and rescue services in the county and to support our schools. I ask that you consider an increase to the transient occupancy tax, also known as a lodging tax, to at least be comparable to surrounding areas at 8 to 9%, which would allow revenue from hotels and bed and breakfasts to increase promotion of tourism opportunities, as well as to generate much-needed revenue for emergency services. Having short-term visitors to our community, especially for large events, does put additional strains on our emergency services, and therefore generating revenue from the lodging tax would be helpful for that. I ask that you advertise a 2.5 or 3 cent per $100 increase to the real estate tax rate. If you advertise this rate, it will allow you time to assess how much the increase in a lodging tax could cover the substantial needs for emergency services this year before finalizing the rate. Without an increase to property taxes, we face a $2.9 million shortfall in the proposed school budget, and many others have talked about what that would cause in terms of harm to our students. I want to specifically address the issue of free meals for all students. Gone are the days when you could send your kid in with a quarter for lunch. Here's still the quarter, so I could maybe get lunch on Chris's quarter. But you can't get lunch for a quarter, and you can't get your milk for a nickel anymore. And you can't even send your kid in with cash anymore. Those of you who don't have kids in school may not realize that now schools require that you pay for your lunch on a website called My School Bucks. My School Bucks is a subsidiary of a large out-of-state company. In order for students to charge meals at schools, their parents or guardians must first load funds onto their My School Bucks account. Each student has their own account linked to their student ID number. Every time a parent or guardian loads funds onto a student account, My School Bucks charges a $3.25 processing fee. This money goes out of our communities to the out-of-state company. If I have one kid who usually eats lunch every day and I have the resources to load their card for $180 or $200, knowing that will cover 12 weeks or so of school lunches, then I only have to pay the $3.25 fee once. But if I don't have that sort of cash available and I'm having to load cards every week, I would have paid $39 in fees alone in a 12-week time period and would have to multiply that for every child in the family and 3 times to cover the whole school year. A 3-cent increase per $100 of property value would result in a family that owns $300,000 home paying an extra $90 in real estate taxes per year. But that same family, if they have one child in school who just eats lunch, could save $117 in My School Bucks payments fees alone. Assuming, again, approximately 36 weeks of school, and they are paying that payment fee every week per child, not to mention any savings in the cost of meals. I ask everyone in the room who supports fully funding the school budget request to please stand or raise your hand to show support. Thank you. I appreciate your service and the efforts that you and the county staff put in to keep our county in good shape. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Board Chair and members of the Board. My name is Katie Seidemann, and I live at 1365 Dow Street here in Christiansburg. I am also the current president of the Montgomery County Education Association and the choir director at Auburn Middle and High School. First, I would like to thank those community members who spoke at previous public addresses, as well as tonight, in support of the proposed MCPS budget. I am always so grateful to and encouraged by those who stand in support of our students and of public education. Thank you all so much. Secondly, I'm here tonight to express my strong support for the proposed MCPS budget and to encourage the board to allocate a greater portion of undesignated funds to MCPS. The amount of designated funds in the budget added to the total amount presented by the board creates the misleading view that the board is actually funding MCPS with more than it has asked for. Designated funds are just that, already designated for specific purposes. I'm asking that the board reconsider the amount of undesignated funds presented in order to fully fund MCPS in ways that are more practical and advantageous to our school system. The proposed MCPS budget includes critical positions and resources needed for our school and our students. Some of these needs are listed because our administration has found that there's something missing in our current operations, and we're asking for your help in order to fill those needs. Other budget items are included not because something is missing, but because there is potential for continued improvement, and we are asking for your help in growing, expanding, and improving our school operations. The MCPS administration has worked diligently to present to you a budget that is practical, yet also forward-thinking. The MCEA fully supports the proposed MCPS budget, and so I ask you again to reconsider the amount of undesignated funds to be supplied to our schools and to our students. During a previous public address, one of the speakers asked you, when will enough be enough for MCPS in regards to the budget? My personal answer, never. We want our students to have the best resources out there. We want our schools to have ample resources for all of our students. We want our students not to simply have the resources they need at the bare minimum. We want our students to have updated, innovative, and creative tools and resources that both support and challenge them in their learning. We want our students to experience various types of educational pathways that will help them grow into productive and active citizens of this community and who will contribute to its betterment. We want our students to have everything. But none of that means that our budget requests are superfluous, unnecessary, or frivolous. Right now, our schools and our students are settling for almost just enough. What would it look like if we were to invest in them to provide them with plenty? I would lasso the moon for my students. Most of our educators would. In fact, our MCPS Teacher of the Year kind of did that. Our schools and our educators do their best to provide the tools and resources our students need, but we can't do it alone. We need the support of our community and our community leaders to invest in our schools and our students. Every day, our MCPS educators strive to give our students the best we can with what we've got to work with. My hope is that the Board of Supervisors becomes an active partner with us in that goal. Thank you for your time and commitment and your service to our community. I'm grateful for the work that you do and your consideration on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joanne Price, and I'm here to speak as a citizen and a business owner. If my budget at my home or in my business is constrained because I only have so much money, I have to cut back. When the economy is not good, I have to cut back. When emergencies happen, I have to cut back. So why doesn't the county cut back? There are a couple of issues here. Number one is the county is supposed to fund essential services. Funding museums, buying overpriced real estate, and supporting nonprofits that do not help our homeless population during extreme cold. People are living in our parks and on our streets, but we're not funding those. I think we ought to look at what we're funding right now. It's not the proper role of government to spend our tax dollars on museums when we have a deficit, as I've heard, that we need to fund the schools. So we need to make a real conscious decision about what we are funding because the money is there. We don't have to raise taxes because that's not the go-to. Those kids who come to school who can't afford their lunches, guess what? I would venture to say that many of them, their parents are working parents and have to pay property taxes. So it's impacting the families that you are absolutely serving because they don't have the money. So this is a bigger picture. I think we ought to look at not raising taxes. We just went through an assessment. My taxes went up. My mortgage went up $300 because of that assessment. And now you're going to tax on top of that. So I think we ought to look at a couple other things. Now, let's look at the schools. The reason I have a problem with giving the schools more money is because the schools are acting like an NGO. Right now, we're seeing fraud, waste, and abuse in our government. with the Department of Efficiency, Government Efficiency. We're seeing this. The schools have redefined CRT, they've redefined SEL, DIE. What's going to be the new name? We still have those staff members employed at the school at horrendous salaries. And these programs are still in existence. Those programs should be looked at and then fund those things that are going to meet the needs, specific needs of education. Our school kids are failing. I mean, we're on the bottom. I grew up in a 4-room school. And I came out of school with an excellent education. So we can do this, and I believe the board can do this, without a tax increase by strictly looking at the line items in the budget. What are we funding? What must we fund? What must we not fund? The money is there without a tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. I do not have, my name's Jessica Bennett, 300 Lucas Drive in Blacksburg. And I do not have anything else to add that already hasn't been mentioned. So I just wanted to add my name to the list of people supporting fully funding our public schools in order to help all students and their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Martha Ann Stallings, and I live in Blacksburg, Virginia. First of all, thank you again for your commitment to education. As Penny Franklin said just a minute ago, ACE is one prime example of what you have done in this community to further people's education. ACE allows students from Montgomery County schools and other groups in Montgomery County to attend New River Community College without paying tuition, and that's pretty darn awesome. Thank you. I would also like you to consider supporting the needs that the Montgomery County Public Schools has identified as very important to be successful. Not a lot more to say than what I've heard tonight. Parents, educators, and community members have shared why these requests are so important, and I agree. I will summarize. Let's keep our children safe, well-fed, and capable of being successful today and tomorrow. Education makes the difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. My name is, Sally Walker, and I live in Blacksburg, Virginia. And I want to say that I support a budget that supports emergency services in Montgomery County Public Schools, specifically the special education services and supporting child nutrition, as well as salaries for teachers. I'm a working mom, and my children are on the free lunch program. I didn't even have to apply for it. They told me I was on it based on the taxes that we submit, and it's been especially helpful for me, not just financially, but work-wise. It's just very easy. It makes it easier for me to be a mom to them, I guess. I just don't have to worry about that. I'm also a property owner. I own some property, and I support paying that bit in taxes to make sure that all students in the county are taken care of like my students are at their wonderful school. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that would like to come forward to address the board during public comment? Welcome again.
Chris Walls, 1370 Rigby. I'm going to say I'm in the minority in this room. I don't want you to raise my taxes. I really don't. I want you to make reasonable cuts to your budget and quit wasting money. Some other people mentioned it in 2 years. You've given $300,000, over $300,000 to the Montgomery Museum, a nonprofit. Guess what that means? They don't pay taxes. And they're basically 3 loan officers' rooms in an old bank building. The rest of the building is being rented out for profit to pay 4% interest on the loan. You'd probably be interested to know who's toting the note on that. One of them would be the president of the museum, Ernie Wade, or so he says. You know, you're talking about this radio thing. Tell those people you don't get a shiny new toy. Fix what you've got and actually take care of it so we don't have to waste money. You all waste money like it's going out of style. When y'all get voted out of office, I hate to see what the credit card bills are going to look like for y'all when the home shopping network comes on, because you just like to buy anything that sounds good, whether it is good or not. But yeah, I don't want you to cut my taxes. I want you to make reasonable cuts to your budget and quit wasting money, like another person said, paying twice what the building's worth. There is no way that that building went up from $490,000 January 1st of 2024 to a value of almost $1 million, and another $160-some thousand, not to renovate it, but to come up with plans to renovate it. You all waste money. If you would stop doing it, you could give free lunches to the kids in school. You could fund all of it if you just quit wasting money on whatever shiny, dangly thing somebody dangles in front of your face and says, "Ooh, look, neat." Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board during public comment? Seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to close public comment and we'll move to, we do not have an addendum this evening, so we'll move to our work session. Is there a motion to go into work session?
So moved. Second.
Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs? Aye. Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone? Aye. Mr. Kitts? Aye. Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, tonight in our work session, we have a discussion planned and a presentation on the fiscal year 25-26 budget. Another goal for this work session is to have a discussion about the tax rate and see how board members are feeling about the tax rate before we get to our new business item to advertise the tax rate. And I'll turn it over to you, Angie.
Thank you. Before I get started, I wanted to thank the staff that helped me get ready for this evening. We worked on it quite a bit today and also answering some questions for the board members to be prepared for this evening, so thank you all for that. This slide shows a summary of what the proposed budget is, which is $268,579,230. And then, as we've talked about, additional state revenue came forward of $986,091 for a total updated amount of $269,565,321, which is an increase from the approved budget for FY25 of just over $12 million. This chart shows the distribution of our new revenue for the proposed budget, and it includes the additional school funding of just over $974,000 that we learned of recently. To clarify this information, is we have received several questions, and it's been brought forward this evening. We've received several questions over the past few weeks regarding the allocation. It's very important that people understand the proportion of undesignated funding received for county operations compared to school operations. County priorities are education and public safety. Over the past few years, public safety needs have increased dramatically, and it's important to note that designated dollars for public safety do not increase significantly, and needs must be met with undesignated funding. This graphic shows the total funding increase for schools since FY24, which is $17.7 million and a 13% increase. While the school budget request is not funded in its entirety in the proposed budget, it has historically increased every year. Since 2023, the county has implemented career EMS in Reiner, 12-hour career firefighters in Elliston. In 22, we implemented EMS in the Shawsville area. And the FY26 proposed budget includes 12 additional firefighters in the eastern Montgomery portion of the county. So as you can, so we're starting with this slide in FY22 because that's before any of these increases in public safety occurred. And you can see that the school operating fund had undesignated dollars coming from the county of approximately 44% of their budget, while the county had 72% of our budget coming from undesignated funds. In the proposed budget, the county has, again, approximately 3/4 of our budget is from undesignated dollars, and the schools have approximately 42%. This slide illustrates the breakdown of funding for all public safety needs. As you can clearly see, designated funding for public safety is minimal and consists primarily of compensation board funding for a portion of the sheriff's department costs. Public safety includes the sheriff's office, the Western Virginia Regional Jail, career fire and EMS, and again, that's career fire in the Elliston area only, and career EMS in Reiner and eastern Montgomery, volunteer fire and rescue throughout the county, and the Animal Care and Adoption Center. This slide I've shared with you before. These two charts compare the FY22 approved budget to the FY26 approved budget in its entirety. It includes designated and undesignated funding, but it does show the shift in public safety, which is shown in the yellow color, from 8% to 11% of the total allocation. That's all I have for you this evening. If you have any questions, I have folks here who can help answer those.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And so we'll start with asking just some questions. Does anybody have any questions still lingering about the proposed budget? Yes, Supervisor Bone.
On one of your first pie charts, it said undesignated and designated school funding, but it should have just said.
That's right.
Okay, I just
The
want to make
legend
sure.
is not correct.
Thank you.
So the legend should say undesignated funds, designated funds.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Any other questions? Okay, so let's have a conversation about the advertised tax rate. And since I'm making us have the conversation, I will open the conversation with my opinion, and we'll welcome everybody else to provide theirs as well. I saw a whole lot of people from District G come forward tonight. I have always advocated for full funding of the schools, and I have run 2 campaigns for re-election based on full funding of the schools. My district overwhelmingly supports that, and so I'm in a position where I do need to be responsive to the whims and desires and demands of my district, and so I am in favor of fully funding the schools. I recognize that not all of my colleagues on this board share that opinion, and so I will go ahead and open it up. Do we have any volunteers that want to say anything after that? Supervisor Bone.
When the time comes, I will ask the board to advertise a 3-cent increase so that we have, similar to several people in the audience, we have the time to look through and see if we can prioritize more. More heads, more ideas, all that kind of stuff. So I'm willing to go that far.
Okay. Who wants to go next? Supervisor Kitts.
So, and I got to ask you to go back on slide because I want to see the one where we talk about where the funding was right at the beginning. So we're talking about, this is the actual numbers I think it was the first slide. Sorry.
I can only go one at a time, I'm sorry.
My fault, guys.
This,
Go to the next one. The undesignated revenue that we just got in. So right there. So we talk about school operations, county operations. I know originally we showed that we were going to ask, the county was going to ask for additional more. It was going to come out. I remember a slide we'd seen before. I can't remember if it's in this one, because we said the school part was 2.9 that we were off on, and then we were off on a certain amount on what the county's ask was.
the request,
Yeah, on the original request that for the undesignated funds, it originally came out to like, it was like 14 or 15 million, and we actually had 7.2 total.
right, I can tell you, hang on just a second.
Sorry, it just popped into my head when I was looking at it.
Someone has it right out. The request was 15.1 million in total, and so the estimated undesignated was 7.7 with a shortfall of 7.4.
For the county itself, for its operation.
The county and schools combined.
Right, so we were gonna come up about 5, and the schools were coming up about 2.9, somewhere in there, 4.5 to 5, short of what we wanted to do originally, how we wanted our budget to be, but we recognized that the funds weren't there to be able to do it, correct?
Right, that's correct.
So programs and things were being adjusted within our budget.
Right. And programs are adjusted before I bring them to you. There are things that we call out ourselves or realign resources as we can before we bring our request to you as well. Yes, but even all the requests that came forward and we felt like had merit are the ones that you're speaking of, yes.
Yeah, but we
And they're not
decided we
fully
cannot do it.
funded.
Right,
They're
we
not
cannot fully fund
funded.
them.
No.
So of the undesignated revenue, there's only a smaller portion of it. Part of that's going to schools, part of it's going to us. It seems a little bit off, 60-40 in the way it's split, but it's an increased amount that's not being funded for us either.
That's correct.
In order to be fiscally responsible.
That's correct.
Okay, so I just want to throw that out there. So it's not only just an arbitrary look, it's a way to be able to adjust like that, showing that everybody's doing a little bit of adjustment here and there. I'm going to say this because I've actually had talks, and I've talked to a number of the school board members offline, and I want to make sure that I make this perfectly clear so everybody understands. I want to be able to fund the schools too. I want people and children to be able to eat. I want to be able to provide that money. But I also recognize that when you go through the budget, and each one of you know that I go through that whole thing line by line, ours and y'all's, to make sure that we're trying to be as responsible as possible. With that, I have some reservations on some stuff that's not needed, but it's wanted. And I understand the difference between wants and needs. But I want to make sure that they understand that they're not the only ones that are having to make adjustments in this. And I think it's a good faith thing to be able to come through and understand that we're giving them the money to the schools, and however they spend the money and however they divide it is the way they do it, because that's their prerogative. That's the school board. It's been brought up that we have the purse strings. Completely understand that, but we're trying to make sure that they get the amount they need to be able to do what they need to do in the schools. There's a couple of things I disagree with, but again, it's not my budget, it's their budget. We make sure that we give them an amount that we're able to do to be able to fund the things they need to do. If it's SSOs, if it's a compression, whatever it is for their pay scale, the school board, it's their prerogative. And we're not going to dictate what their prerogatives are. We're not going to make sure that, we just want to make sure that they do have the money that is needed to handle the main programs that they have. To make a comment that things are going to be cut, I think is a little disingenuous for the point of they're going to be given the amount of money, and it's a substantial increase over the last year. And as it showed in the slides, it's a $17 million increase over the last 2 years. It's nothing to shake a stick at. Completely understand that it could be more. And I respect that, and I respect the hustle of asking for it. But I also understand that if the county's cutting programs that we wanted to do, that some other adjustments are going to have to be made this year. Again, this is nothing I haven't talked to the school board members about offline. But I want to make sure that people are clear that nobody's cutting anything. Is it what they want? Not wholly. Could it be moved? Yes. Is it possible? Completely. I'm not leaning that way because I think there's things that can be adjusted within their budget. I think some of it's, while there's in there, I think there's needs and wants. And I think we need to be able to adjust And we need to come at that in good faith and go, okay, you can't do this. Can we hope to do this? Because if they say we can't fund, we want 1 penny for food. Well, nothing says that you're going to do that because we don't have any control over that. It's completely up to the school board on how they do this. And I want to make sure that people understand that nothing's being cut, that the budget's being increased. 5, 6 million, 7 million?
6 million.
6 million this year.
Right.
6.53. So I just want to make sure that's understood because I am open to talks with them, but I've also told them how I went through the budget. And we all know this. Just want to make sure that it's out there, that it's not being cut, that the money's being put forth, that they're allowed to allocate it how they want, and there's nothing that we can say or do about it. It's completely on them. Is it exactly what they want? No. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I will go with the board on an advertised rate, but my point is I'm not for increasing taxes, but I will allow it to move forward because I did it last time, and I think it's the board's prerogative to be able to put that out there, but I'm not supportive of it above and beyond what the county administrator is putting forth. If you remember 2 years ago, the county administrator recommended a rate, and the Board of Supervisors went under it. That's before my time. They went under the recommended rate of what was being put forth. We're actually going forward with the rate that the county administrator has recommended. So we're not going and deviating off of that and going under it. So the priorities are there, and I completely understand everybody's upset and they feel that these are needs that need to be filled, and I respect that. So I will allow, I'm going to say allow, I apologize, that's the wrong word. I will support if you want to advertise a higher rate, but you already know where my feelings are on that for this year.
Okay. Thank you. Who would like to go next? Supervisor King?
Thank you. Just like to read off a few things. This year, the school will be getting $6,053,000. And if I get wrong with my figures, please, Angie, speak up. As far as giving the school employees a raise, I'm all for that. 3% raise will cost $4,036,000. For the, I think you call them SSO officers, it's $280,000. I'm all for that. With that being said, that would leave a total of $1,736,000 left over to give free lunches and breakfast for students. That's another $1.2, $1.3 million. That would leave the schools around $500,000 left over to put where they need. That would be without a tax increase. So you have the money. The money's there. And as it was stated, you know, the county don't get everything we want either. But we do by a need basis. This board has supported, as long as I've been here, supported schools. We have never cut the school budget. We haven't always given them everything they wanted. But we have never cut their budget. But if we stick with this right here, they have the money for free lunches and breakfast for everyone, plus raises for the staff, and the citizens won't have to suffer another tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else, looking over here? Supervisor Grafsky?
All right. Well, Angie, I'd like to thank you and your staff for answering my barrage of questions as they have come up as it relates to this budget. And also thank you to the school board and MCPS for answering our questions that we had regarding theirs. And thanks to everybody that's come out this evening to speak. So, it's incumbent upon us to walk a pretty fine line between taxing at a level that supports essential services in the community, supports evolution, innovation, adoption of new programs and services. But we also have to, figure out how to do that without saddling our citizens with an unreasonable or an unsustainable tax liability. As has been mentioned by my colleagues up here, right, the county has, had a list of wants and needs, and we chipped away at that to try to strike a solid balance between the needs of the county, the needs of the school system, and I'd also like to remind us or remind everybody that last year when we did increase taxes, 90% of that tax increase went to MCPS, right? We increased the rate 5 cents. There was about a $5.5 million increase in the county's contribution to MCPS last year. So that works out to be about 4.5 cents of that 5 cent tax increase. With that said, however, and after listening to, having several conversations, reading a lot of emails over the last several days, and hearing the strong support this evening for the budget, I am concerned that the proposed budget does require the school board to make a lot of cuts to that budget. And so while I don't think I would support a full 3 cent tax rate, advertised tax rate increase, I would definitely support a penny increase over last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Supervisor Biggs?
Are you saying like a penny, like advertise it at 76?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. Well, I guess everyone that knows me knows I've always supported schools and everything, and I think we do have to have a balance, and we have had a lot of public safety issues, and so I am willing also to advertise the tax rate at a higher rate, not at 75 cents. So I'm thinking we're somewhere here, hearing 73 and, or not 73, we're somewhere 78 and 76, right? Is that where we are? Okay, I can go somewhere in there. And I was going to ask Chair DeMott's, like, what were you thinking? Were you thinking like the full amount, the 3? Or
I would advertise at 78, I would advertise at 77, I would advertise at 76, I would advertise at a higher rate to get whatever we need to do to get a majority to advertise.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same way, so we can sort of do it from there.
Okay, and Vice Chair Fijikowski, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was here 2 years ago when the reassessments came in and the average increase in everybody's property values went up 30%. And the board at that time decided to lower the tax rate to revenue neutral because of the situation the economy was in and the fact that all the values had gone up. And I also remember back then, two of our members weren't here, but I was chastised for not going along with what the county administration had come up with, which was actually the 75 cents. So I just remind everybody we have an excellent county administrator, an incredible staff that goes through all these numbers. And this is the balance that they came up with, and I think it's a good balance. Over the course of our discussions, we've talked with the schools about various costs, and I'm looking at some figures here. One was, where do our teachers' starting pay compare to other jurisdictions? Well, we are within a couple $100 per year with Salem City and Roanoke City. And we are above Roanoke County and Pulaski County. So I'm not, and this is not to say I don't think they should get a pay raise. They're going to get a pay raise, and they deserve it. But Things are not as dark as as a lot of folks seem to make them out to be. I believe that within the amount of money that has been given to the schools, or is proposed to be given to the schools, that they can balance that out within their own system and make things work. At our joint meeting, priorities were talked about, and I'm sure they will do that. They will prioritize and get it done. So that's where I stand on it.
Okay. And I am sorry to put you on the spot, Supervisor Kitts, but I am coming back to you because I've got a little bit of clarity on where other people are willing to go. Do you have an idea in mind for what you're thinking?
I do. Do I have to share it?
No, you do
Okay.
not.
No, I don't mind. No, I'll support a posted a raise of 76. I won't go to 78, but you also know where my feelings are, that I don't feel like we should have to, but I will respect the other members of the board if that's the way we want to go, and I will support at 76 for an advertised rate.
Okay.
I just wanted to say one other thing. I know I hopefully answered almost all the emails, but there were about 50 emails. And what I noticed about them and what I noticed in remarks from folks is a little bit different than what has happened in the past. And what I noticed were the thoughts were very personalized and very much reflective of the concern, especially about nutrition for the students, for staff increases, and to support special ed students. There was also, I think, a really well-written email about a fine arts director that's been missing since COVID. So there are things that I think that the school system really does need, and I think a little flexibility that would include, not just supporting a proposed, but like looking at the whole budget a little bit more in detail. I think there's some real important things that need to be addressed, in other words, I think is what I'm trying to say. So, Chair DeMotts, I can go with whatever, like you, if you want to start with the 3 cents above the 75 at 78, and we have enough people to do that, and if we don't, then we go to the next and then the next.
Okay. Sure, of course.
And just because we advertise 78 doesn't mean that we even have to raise taxes at all.
Right.
We can even lower taxes.
Mm-hmm.
It just allows us to have, Steve, imagine that. So I would encourage us just to have the flexibility to move forward and continue conversations amongst ourselves, amongst our residents, amongst the school board, and so on. Thank you.
And that's a good point. And I'll just put a period on the end of that by saying that if we advertise at a higher rate this evening, we can lower the rate. But if we do not advertise at a higher rate tonight, then we cannot raise the rate in the future. So that's thank you for pointing that out. That's very important. Go ahead.
And also, Chair DeMotts, it does give other citizens a chance to come forward and talk about what they might be concerned about.
Agreed. Yes, sir.
During our joint meeting, was it said that 11% of they had 11% job openings? What they said?
I think that's correct, but they're here if we want to ask them. I think that is correct.
If you would, tomorrow or sometime, find out if that's true.
Yes.
And how much money that is.
Yes, I can find that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think we have covered everything needed to be covered in the work session. I'm not seeing any more questions, so can I have a motion to come out of work session?
Motion.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and then seconded. Madam Clerk, if you will call the roll, please.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone? Aye. Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a short recess, just a convenience break. We're going to go about 10 minutes. It is almost 8:56, so we will reconvene at 9:06. Yeah, and then we'll resume the rest of the evening. I did hesitate. Back to order. Bless you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our items of consent. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, on to our new business. Our first item of new business this evening is to establish the advertised real estate tax rate and other property taxes for 2026. We do have several categories of tax rates. We have our aircraft tax rate at $1.23 per 100, tangible personal property at $2.55, machinery and tools at $1.82. That leaves mobile home and real estate tax rates up for discussion. Is there a motion related to those tax rates?
I'd like to make a motion to advertise for a 3-penny increase for the real estate taxes.
So that would bring the real estate tax and the mobile home tax to 78 cents per 100. Is there a second?
I'll second it, and we'll just go from there.
Okay. It has been motioned and seconded to advertise at 78 cents with all other values that I mentioned being the same. Is there any discussion about 78 cents? Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
No.
Mr. King?
No.
Ms. Fitchukowski?
No.
Ms. Biggs?
Yes.
Mr. Grafsky?
No.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye. The motion fails.
All right, I'll make a motion to try 77.
Okay, we have a motion to try.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to try 77. Is there any discussion? Okay,
I'll just make one.
Madam, oh,
Wants to say
excuse me.
I don't want to be disingenuous in supporting a advertised tax rate that I know I'm more than likely not going to vote for. And so I just want to be clear about that before this vote comes up.
Appreciate that. Sounds like we're preparing to take a vote that might fail again. Madam Clerk, if you will call the roll, please, on 77 cents.
Mr. Kitts?
No.
Mr. King?
No.
Ms. Fitchukowski?
No.
Ms. Biggs?
Yes.
Mr. Grafsky?
No.
Ms. Bone?
Yes.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
4 no, 3 aye.
Okay, so that motion also fails. Is there another motion for the
Yes, I'll make
adver-
a motion for 76 cents.
Okay, we have a motion for 76.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second at 76 cents. Again, that is the mobile home and real estate tax rate. That represents 1 penny increase on the tax rate. Is there any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll on 76 cents.
Mr. King?
No.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
No.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
5 ayes, 2 no for 76 cent advertised rate.
Okay, so we have cleared that hurdle, and now we will move to establish the advertised fiscal year 25-26 budget at a 76-cent tax rate that creates a total budget amount of $270,810,181. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
So moved.
Mark gave the thumbs
Okay,
up.
I'm
Yep.
getting yes that we're wrong. We've got a first, a second, and is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
No.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
No.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
5 ayes, 2 no.
Okay. And our next item of new business is the New River Valley Emergency Communications Regional Authority Radio Infrastructure Project. This is the item that we had the public hearing on earlier. We don't have any presentation. We've already gotten the information about that. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Walls brings up some expertise information. Have we vetted those types of questions in the proposal that we have?
The proposal that we have is mostly to improve the infrastructure and, as Vice Chair Fujikowski said, convert from analog to digital, which is a huge change. I can't specifically answer his question that he brought forward.
A couple of the other ones was that they were adding towers. I think
They
that
are
was a lot
adding
of the costs.
towers.
They were adding towers in areas that were not serviced at this time.
Right. Those
So-
two are the major changes.
The next question I have is the ongoing expenses starting at $250,000-ish. Do we have any sense of how that will increase over time?
Let me check.
Or if it will, I have no idea.
And while Angie's checking on that, I'll just, to give her a moment to go through her paperwork, I think all of us were present when we had the initial presentation about the radios and got to hear all of the different problems in especially some of our more rural parts. You guys were not here, but it was while you were campaigning. Did you hear that, or?
Yeah, I think we were sitting side by side when the
In the
presentation
meeting?
was given.
Okay.
Yeah, so we heard it.
All right.
There are increases that it covers from year 2 through 15. The first year, the maintenance is covered with the project. There is an increase, but I think that's one of the things that they're negotiating with the contract.
Do you have a sense of like year over year, 3% increase or something like that?
No, I'm not involved in
Okay.
that. It's with the authority.
Like Supervisor King, we want to make sure we're on top of all this stuff so that we're not caught off guard. And
Right.
Don't ask all the right questions.
Right.
Because in my district, someone came to me and said, hey, can you make sure this doesn't spiral out of control? Makes sense. Thank you.
And I just had the one citizen that asked me about how it was going to be planned to be paid for. And I think that you answered that.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item on our agenda is change in project scope. This is a capital project funds transfer. This resolution reallocates $205,000 in existing capital project funds from the Magistrate and Court Services Building Project to the 201 Radford Street project. Angie, do you have anything to add?
I do have something to add for that. The Magistrate and Court Services Building project is almost complete, and we know that it will come in under budget of $205,000. Yeah, that's a good thing. So when we have changes between projects in the capital projects fund, we bring those to the board to get your approval on those. So the proposal is to move that from the Magistrate and Court Services Building project to the 201 Radford Street project to perform some preliminary A&E work so we can get more information on that for you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion or questions about this? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item is it's a request, a waiver from the State Board of Elections to allow F1 split precinct at Luther Memorial Lutheran Church, and I'm going to kick that entirely to our county attorney. Marty?
Thanks, Madam Chair. This was a request from the General Registrar who's seeking a waiver from the state to allow her to have the one split precinct for the upcoming November election. As you said, it's in the F1 Luther Memorial Lutheran Church. The split is between county and town election. And so she's asking, in order to ask for that waiver, she needs the board to authorize her to do that. And that's the purpose of this resolution.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item is a boundary line, vacation of a lot line in Montgomery County. This is at Old Town Road in Shawsville. And Marty, you're on again.
Yeah, this is just a simple cleanup. This is property that's owned by the county, and the request is for the board to authorize there's like 3 different different parcels that make up the property, and we would like to see the interior boundary lines get removed so there's just one parcel. It'll make it easier for the property to be used in the future, and it's basically just a cleanup. It was made up of 3 parcels, now to be made up of 1. And so this authorizes that to occur and authorizes the chair to sign the plat.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item on the agenda is an agreement for services related to the Children's Services Act, and we will continue with the Marty McMahon Show. Please introduce this for us.
And I will not have a report after this, by the way.
Good.
Yeah, this final resolution under my watch it's something you guys do sometimes annually. Actually, this one's going to be for a couple years. It's just the agreement between the community policy and management team and the county, and then the provider of services that provides services for at-risk youth and their families. And so this is just the agreement that they use for all providers to sign up and provide what they provide. And we're a party to it because it's in Montgomery County, but the CPMT, or the Community Policy Management Team, is the one that runs it for you. And that's made up of different players in that realm, including social services, health departments, schools are involved. The county has representatives. And so all this is doing is setting up the model agreement that all providers will comply with. And it's good through 2028.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to compliment, actually, the people that are involved in this, because when I served on the State Executive Council for Children's Services, I was made aware of a lot of the localities, the costs are astronomical, and our group does a really good job of working together to try to meet the needs of the children. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, and now we're going to move into a lot of proclamations. So hold your horses a little bit, I guess. The first is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, April of 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item, this is a fun one, National County Government Month for April of 2025. What a great month. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Are we doing anything for it to celebrate?
I feel like our public information team does quite a bit to She's nodding, yes, yes, yes. Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item is National Distracted Driving Awareness Month, April of 2025. This one was originally brought to this board by previous Supervisor Sherry Blevins. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next is National Library Week, April 6th through 12th of 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
You can give it to her.
Pick whoever. Okay, any discussion?
I'm sorry, I had issues with my last one, so who made the motion?
Derek.
Derek.
Kitts, excuse me.
Mary, okay, sorry about that.
You're fine.
Thanks for specifying.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, I should have said Supervisor Kitts.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, April 13th through 19th, 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion.
In
Second.
unison.
He's
Wow,
soft.
that's creepy.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Okay,
Yeah, I
perfect.
second,
Vicky.
yeah.
We're
Vicky.
not on the right one.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me,
We're getting ahead of Vicky.
I am. I can't. Let me go back. I may have. I think that's what happened.
Do you know how to go?
Mm-hmm. Let's cancel this.
This will just take a moment. When we go through them really fast, it's a lot to keep up with.
I'm locked. Here we go.
Okay.
Now we had.
Supervisor, Vice Chair Fidzikowski, and then Supervisor King.
Just a shout out to Vicky because she's awesome.
She is, agreed.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready to call the roll?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it on the floor.
Okay. Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, next is National Therapy Animal Day, April 30th. We have had this on our agenda in the past, but Supervisor Bones specifically requested that this be on our agenda this year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Third,
Okay,
whatever.
any discussion?
I do have one comment.
Yes, go right ahead.
This is, one of my constituents sent me an email saying we should do this again, so we are doing it. And I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, and our last one is National Volunteer Week, April 20th through 26th, 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Just glad we're doing it.
Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please. Well, we'll give you a second to catch up.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Chair DeMotts?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. And now we have completed our new business. We'll move on to reports. The county attorney has already waived his report for this evening, but we'll give you a second bite. No report. Okay. County Administrator, Ms. Hill.
I just have a few things. One thing we need to discuss is whether or not you want to have a work session a week from tonight on the budget. We have one scheduled. It's a special meeting. Staff doesn't necessarily have anything to present at this point, but if you think that you might have questions, we just need direction.
Other opportunities between now and then to have work sessions if we have specific requests?
Yes, you will. And April 10th is the date of the public hearing. So there would not be a meeting between now and April 10th,
Okay.
but there would be times after that.
And we would still be able to submit questions and have them answered
Of
between now and
course,
then.
yes.
So I'm going to pause you for just a second and just kind of collect consensus on, I'm seeing a thumbs down, do we need to have an additional meeting next Monday, March 31st? I'm seeing,
Well, I have a comment.
sure.
See, we still won't know if the governor's signing off on anything until, what is it, April 2nd or something?
I thought he was signing today.
Did he
No,
sign it?
I don't know.
I thought it was in
We were
April.
really busy. It was supposed to be today.
Okay.
Do you know, school people, do you know? They don't know. We'll tell you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so
People, well,
let's
they're
do
right
it.
there. The
Let's-
school finance people are right there. I know that the county people don't know, so I didn't ask them.
Can we do a thumbs up or thumbs down to give staff direction on a meeting on the 31st?
Because we still won't know.
Outlier. Okay, it looks like consensus is no meeting is needed next Monday.
Thank you. We had a group that's been before us a few times regarding a whole home repair program, and one of the items that they brought forward at their last time that they were here were some housing grants. Chris is meeting with the localities that they mentioned that use those grants, and we'll send a report to you about that as soon as it is complete. I just wanted to remind you that we have received a letter, Chair DeMott's received a letter from the town of Christiansburg. It requested primarily two things. One was discussion about a countywide fire and EMS study. We have a draft of that, and I've spoken with the town managers. They're going to put their input in that, and we're going to do a combined study of fire and EMS in the entire county. And then I think the board discussed meeting with the town of Christiansburg at a future date. I just wanted to confirm that we didn't have a date for that at this point.
We do not have a date for that at this point. I think we need some more information, one of which is the study.
They asked for some additional funding in their letter, which I related to fire and EMS in the town. And so the town manager asked me about the date of a potential meeting.
So please correct me if I'm wrong, any of you, but it was my understanding that we wanted to see the results of a study before we were able to move forward with any additional funding.
I don't think the mayor understands it that way. I think there was a request for increased funding for Christiansburg based on calls that were responded to. And from what he told me on Saturday, that would be the only thing discussed, and that a Wednesday or Thursday night would be best in a neutral location. That's what he said, so.
We can meet in Blacksburg.
Well, so I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think the study was all about they were wanting to build another station and wanted us to be involved. And I think the study was for that to know where the best location would be.
Well, it was an offset of a little bit of everything. And the letter, from what I read, what they handed in was they did a 3-year average from their numbers of what they think they should be reimbursed for compensation coming up. But this study was to address the overall stress upon the entire system to involve and to get the input for the RFP from Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and Virginia Tech in order to make sure we have a holistic approach. But as far as that letter goes, it's somewhat involved would be involved in the study, but it's more of a current issue than
that's what
for the future. It could be for the future, but it's more of a current issue right now. So we're trying to wait and get their input so we can have a solid RFP put forth that incorporates everyone's needs to make sure that we've got a handle on everything. So I don't know how that balances out if I answered the question on that one.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I understood also, that it was kind of current needs right now. But and I don't think we need a study for that. We just need to get all our stats together and kind of look at what the numbers are. They do I believe Christiansburg picks up the most calls in the county, then Blacksburg, and then on down the line, but,
Their funding request is based on a 50-50 sharing model, and the total dollar amount of the request is $626,237, an increase of that.
yeah, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, I'd actually talked to them about it and said, hey, we just want a detailed, have no issues with the part with them making the calls covering for Elliston right now, but we needed a more in-depth analysis of what they had. They came back with the 3-year average for what they did, and that was the last thing I saw.
So, and we haven't received any updated communication since the letter that all of us have seen. So can staff work on maybe analyzing the letter, and maybe we can schedule a work session to talk about our next steps at an upcoming meeting?
We can do that.
Does that work?
I think that's a really good idea, because I thought they were just asking specifically in that letter, talking about, the fact that they do all the calls and they want to be reimbursed. The study was a separate thing,
Okay,
so that would be good.
that work? Supervisor King?
Is that 600 and some on top of what we're giving them now?
Yes.
Yes.
We currently provide just over $300,000, $155,295 for the fire, and EMS is $150,000.
That's not including the trucks and stuff that we buy. right?
Correct, it is not. It's only for operations.
So we're going to have a joint meeting before we do the study, right?
I think we'll have a work session on our board and then a joint meeting is what
Before
I'm
we
hearing.
start the study. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I think that they, as Vice Chair Fidzikowski pointed out, I think that they wanted to get a little bit of direction as they move through their budget process.
So then we will have a joint meeting as soon as
Right.
we're able to get information together.
Right. We can present some more analysis of the letter at the next Board of Supervisors meeting.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay.
What next?
I have 2 more things. I don't think that they're as lengthy as that. We've brought a couple OAA, Opioid Abatement Authority, possible funding requests to you for programs. We're still vetting those. The applications are due to the state April 1st through the Regional Commission. I'll update you with an email before that time. And the last thing that I have to discuss, I have to find this. It's an exciting thing. Look, Jen's not going to look at me. Our Public Relations and Community Engagement Department has received 3 very prestigious awards. The first one, they won the 2024 Lynn Chaff Award for Creativity from the Hurricane Prep Palti, you get it like the cat's paw, campaign. That was their highest level award, and our folks won that, so that's exciting. They also won a gold award for the public service announcement, voting in the 2024 election with the Office of Elections. And then their third award was a silver award for a video longer than 2 minutes, which was called Whispers Fairy Tale Ending. So congratulations. Thank you for that. I know that Jen always talks about her awesome staff, and they are wonderful. I know she would say if she was at the microphone, she could not do this without them. And while Jen is wonderful, she could not do this without them.
Congratulations, that's awesome. I hope that the Public Information Office is able to toot their own horn and market those great awards.
I think we will have a news release coming soon.
Excellent. Congratulations. And now we will move to Board of Supervisor member reports. Supervisor Biggs.
Well, I just want to thank everyone that sent emails, everyone that came out to speak tonight. Look forward to hearing from other folks concerning the budget and the tax rate. Want to thank staff for all the work they did. Want to thank school board staff for all the work they did. And I do have one thing to ask Marty, so he has to give a report. Marty, on the question of why can't the county do progressive taxes so the people that can pay more, and the people that can't would pay less? Would you like to tell everyone why that doesn't work?
The board, or there's no authority in Virginia to do that. We're a Dillon rule state, and we can only tax based on how the state says we can, and there's no progressive model that the state has given anyone enabling authority to do so.
Right, so it's a General Assembly issue.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, and Supervisor Bone?
Marty, could you also speak to, because either I misheard or forgot, when I asked at the last meeting if we could raise taxes mid-year if, like, the federal government or school funding or whatever kind of funding just kind of disappears so that we could address whatever shortfall we would experience. I thought you said, yes, we could. You probably didn't, but it was clear in some of the answers that we had for the budget that we can't.
After the land book is delivered.
I think there's a timing issue. You can do it, I think, up until the time the land book goes out, right?
And when is that?
It's in April.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it's basically an answer is no, right? Yeah. My second thing is I petitioned the board to appoint someone to the PSA to represent District A. So hopefully we can resolve that. Thank you.
Okay. And Supervisor King? Oh, I didn't skip him. I've got an order here. He's cut off.
I don't have no report, but I would like to thank everybody that come out and supported Reiner Volunteer Fire Department on their oyster dinner fundraiser. We had a pretty good crowd out there. And I would like to mention one thing, and I know Angie did a couple of times here tonight, but at our last meeting, when we was talking about the budget, it was brought up about paid fire and EMS in Elliston and paid staff in Reiner. We do not have any paid firemen in Reiner. It is still covered by volunteers.
Right.
Thank you.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Now it's your turn, Supervisor Kitts.
So I'm not mad. I'm good. I reached my word limit. I've been added a few. So I've been telling everybody to make sure you pay attention to the speed zone cameras. I've been saying it every ever say, hey, make sure you pay attention to the speed zone cameras. Angie, that number that came out, was that the 60-day or the 30-day? Because it said this is the monthly numbers.
I think it is a monthly number, and I know that it's a high number. I need to speak with Hank about exactly what fees we have to pay from that, because it seems to me that we have to pay, I don't know which number we pay off of, but we also expect that to go down, but we did not include revenue in the budget for that.
Oh, I know. It's 5,620 summonses have been issued for speeding in school zones. That was 11 miles per hour over. It was originally 8,000 plus, but that was whittled down due to school zone times and things like that. 5,600 speeding tickets. 1,700, I think, in Reiner, 1,700 near Bellevue. I'm just saying, people slow down. There's speed zone cameras up there for a reason, and it shouldn't actually be an additional revenue source.
Right.
It shouldn't be that way, but it's going to be if people don't slow down. So I think I've said it a couple times and just throwing it out there, so that's all I have to say.
We're also going to get data about people who pass school buses. We don't have that data yet, but it is profound as well. Don't pass a school bus when the sign is out.
Thank you. All right, and Supervisor Grafsky.
I don't have a report this evening.
Okay. And then finally, Vice Chair Fijikowski.
My question to Marty is, There's been some suggestions of raising the occupancy tax in the county. How would that work?
Well, we also have a Dillon Rule Authority problem with that. Counties generally, some counties have specific authority, like Roanoke County, and then Fairfax and a couple others have been given over time, like where they can have a rate almost as high as, say, the towns or the cities. But counties generally don't, and the only authority we have is we could do 2%, which we do currently, and then you can raise an additional 3% to a 5 total. However, that additional 3 can only be used for tourism. So basically what that means is you can't raise that tax in order to fund schools.
Thank you.
So again, a General Assembly thing.
Again, yeah. The only other thing I have to report is I attended the presentation at the Montgomery Museum from Delegate Obenchain and Delegate Ballard. It was a very nice ceremony. That was for their the 250th year celebration award from the state and from what we contributed to get that money. They have big plans. The museum really goes above and beyond to present programs to the citizens that I think really raises the living standard here in the county. They do a lot of programs for children. They do also a lot of programs for adults. And I'm sure they will utilize that money. They're going to build an elevator, which would make them compatible for folks who are not able to walk up the stairs. So it's going to be a welcome addition to their building. But it was very, very nice. And we, as a county, received many thanks from everyone there. So it was good. The end.
Thank you. Okay, I do not have a report this evening, and seeing no additional business, I'm calling this meeting adjourned. Hang out for just a second.